Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest cryptocurrency channel in all the interwebs. My name is TJ, and I'll be your host for today's episode of Around the Blockchain. Every weekday, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we come to you live with some of our favorite crypto friends and personalities from around the blockchain to discuss today's trending topics, as well as answer some of your most asked questions. We got some really good topics today. We've got a new sponsorship of an esports team, TSM. We've seen a country, El Salvador, naming Bitcoin as its sovereign currency. So could this be the start of a new super cycle for Bitcoin? Just before going live here, we saw the price dump on the news that potentially they have recovered the Bitcoin that was used in the pipeline hack. So we're going to talk about that a little bit on the top of the show, as well as rounding things out with China. Are they done with Bitcoin, and what is their long-term play with some of these big payment apps saying that they're no longer going to be accepting Bitcoin? But before we get into all that, let me introduce our guests. We've got everybody's favorite blockchain mom, CryptoWendyO, joining us here today, as well as son of a tech who is not Wendy's son, joining us, and Andrew Mo Money, the crowd favorite with the pup from last week. Oh, look at that. He's got the magic tricks, throwing that cash. We love it. And Ben Armstrong, fresh off the Bitcoin 2021 flight, back in here today to chat around the blockchain. So real quick, we're going to do a quick market watch. As everybody knows, if you see the score boxes in the bottom right-hand corner, if you like anything one of the guests is saying, drop a +1 in the chat so I know to give them a point, as well as drop your questions in there, and we can try to work them in as we have time. So real quick, Wendy, we were just looking at right before we went live, the price just dropped about almost $1,000 in the span of just a few minutes. What are you seeing? You were saying the trend line still quite hasn't been broken yet. What do you see on the charts right now?
Correct. Let me go ahead and just share my screen really quickly so you guys can see what I'm talking about and not think I'm full of malarkey. All right, so here is my chart, and this is the same chart that we have been using on the show for quite some time, probably about a month or so. But basically, I've got all the areas of support and resistance so you guys can see, and I went ahead and drew this little pennant thingy here. I'm not exactly sure what pattern this is, what kind of pennant it is, but generally these types of pennants, they tend to break down, and it looks like we're starting to break down below this area of support, approximately at about $35,000. At this, I wouldn't be too concerned because we do have additional support at about $33,469. This is where I would watch. This is in the ByBit and consolidate range. So just kind of watch and see what's happening. There has been an announcement of some pretty bearish news. That could be one of the reasons why. But right now, unless you're not, if you're scalping, I would be concerned. But if you're just holding and you're interested in altcoins and doing some swing trades with Bitcoin, just kind of watch the crucial areas of support and resistance, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, that's good advice. And then right before we went live, son of a tech, you were the one who actually mentioned you had seen the news of the news that they maybe have recovered the Bitcoin that was used in the pipeline hack, the ransom. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right, so I saw it pop maybe like 15 minutes before I hopped on this call, and essentially all I got was the headline and a little bit in, basically covering that I guess the feds, I don't know exactly which branch, have announced that they have found at least some of the Bitcoin that was paid in ransom to the pipeline hackers, and they have recovered some of that, right? So I guess, Wendy, you had said that that they're saying this is because it is on a centralized exchange at this point. Either way, whether that's going to be, because it's on a centralized exchange or not, I think that will cause a little bit of fear on the index. I mean, this type of thing, the government being able to reach into cryptocurrency at all is always going to look bad. So I think that could possibly be one of the reasons why we saw a breakdown.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make there about the government being able to get their hands in there, reach in and recover this. Ben, what is your take? If it is on a centralized exchange, obviously those usually require KYC, and they can, obviously they control all those wallets. How do you feel about the government just stepping in and kind of just reclaiming that?
So I'm reading this story. I read 2 stories on this in the last 5 minutes while everybody else was talking. I mean, I was listening. You guys know I'm a great listener. Like TJ, I'll tell you that. But guys, I don't know if this is a centralized exchange. It says that this private key, that the FBI has access to the private key. So how do they do that? I don't know. Now, look, obviously, if it's a centralized exchange, they don't have the private key. So this wallet had 69 Bitcoin in it. I think they said last week, and they removed about 64 Bitcoin from it. So they got almost all of the Bitcoin back out of that wallet. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see if it says how much it was. Now, what's funny is they were asking for $5 million in Bitcoin, but by the time they actually sent it, it was only 4.4 billion crypto. Am I right? So the price had dropped. But yeah, I'm trying to find anything that talks about an exchange, and I haven't been able to see it yet. It just says it's not clear how they were able to get access to the private key. And interestingly enough, somehow they know that address is in California, or maybe it's been accessed from Northern California. So it's right here in our own backyard. This isn't somebody, somewhere in the Middle East or Russia or anywhere like that. So this is very interesting news. I mean, certainly if they're able to get access to the private key, we're going to have a lot of questions on how. And, I think that we do have to remove this criminal element from crypto, obviously. So they got what they deserved. Screw them.
Yeah, and then Andrew, I wanted to hear from you on this a little bit. Like, if this is going to be the news that's causing the price to go down, how much of an effect do you think it'll have? Or do you have any key supports or any places you're looking to scoop more, or any projects you're looking at if this news does kind of tank the price again?
Thanks for asking. So first of all, I would say that this is an opportunity for everyone to consider Asia, right? We had South Korea Parliament discussing the very concept of cryptocurrency for the first time, where China then comes back around and then cracks down on social media. So that's including the BitBoy space, right? So we are seeing social media become a bigger part of meme stocks as well as cryptocurrency. Something that I want to say for the people watching AMC and GME at home is that you guys are looking at the beginning of a downturn on crypto that could easily lead into margin calls for a lot of these institutions that are holding both the crypto and the meme stock war down right now. So apes currently are on the same side, and we are looking at the inverse correlation of 10% up on these meme stocks versus the cryptocurrency market. It's important to be able to have that context. Nothing is in a bubble. We are currently living in a space where not only are we going to have to play nice with these sovereigns and these centralized governments to be able to control what we feel is the next step for decentralized overall, but then take that away from more centralized social media. For example, the king, or perhaps he's the dunce of the social media world, is Elon Musk, taking into consideration what he said not only over the past week, but just the past weekend. It's one of the opportunities for us to reconsider our relationship with the blockchain, but also with the big players in that blockchain.
Yeah, he definitely had quite the weekend of tweets, and we were talking about it a little bit this morning. I was not a big fan of a lot of his actions and the effect that it has on different people. There were some of these meme coins, you could say, that were trending on Saturday morning. You wonder why. You go look at his account, and then there it is. There's a tweet. That thing skyrockets right afterwards. So it's clear manipulation. It's him trolling. It's him having fun, I guess, but it's at the expense of a lot of other people, which doesn't really sit right with us. But you mentioned Asia and media, and I want to stick with that on a little bit. We've got a big story coming out about FTX, who recently sponsored the arena down in Miami. They just did a $210 million deal with TSM, one of the largest esports organizations in the world, very big for Riot games like League of Legends, Valorant, things like that. And I know, Andrew, I believe you said you actually play some esports and some video games. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, how much of an impact do you think this will be as it grows over time? It's greater. They paid much more for this TSM deal than they did for the FTX arena, and the reach on this internationally, as well as with the young generation, is really high. So I'm curious to hear on your thoughts on that. Do you think that's going to have a huge impact going forward, Andrew?
Professor Meatball is the professional esports gamer, so let him.
Oh,
no?
Okay.
Well, I had a feeling that he wanted to say something, but I'll speak on gaming overall. It's essentially looking at supply and demand. What are people seeing on the upside of that esports world? For example, why are people so enamored with the idea that perhaps SLGG, or when it comes around, we only have about 3 trading days left until GameStop's annual meeting with the shareholders, that they might announce some esports partnerships, especially with Super League Gaming and other esports related fields. So as of right now, I would say that esports is perhaps the underlying bridge between the cryptocurrency world and the meme stock, the AMC and the GME ape world, because of the idea that esports allows people to connect together, pandemic proof, right? We had the opportunity for these esports gurus, these giants, to be able to start rising the ranks when the real sports needed a bubble in order to perform, right? Tokyo bubble waiting on the precipice of a disaster. Nothing that can happen in the esports world. So people are paying attention to virtual, paying attention to the ability for these recovery stocks and the recovery crypto to be able to tie to that esports underlying current. And I think that that's bullish AF.
Yeah, and another factor of this deal that a lot of people may be kind of glossing over is all of the players for TSM will be receiving cryptocurrency from FTX throughout this deal. Some of these players have some of the biggest social reaches all across the world. So Wendy, I want to ask you, like, how much of an impact do you think it is now that we're starting to see big social media accounts and influencers all over the world getting paid in these sponsorship deals with cryptocurrency? Do you think that's going to have a domino effect as they just, because we know from our experience when we get other people involved in cryptocurrency, when we put it in their hand, put it in their pocket, they become obviously a lot more invested. So what are your thoughts on that? What kind of impact do you think that could have?
Kind of pigging on to what you were saying about, the trickle down effect. So what I do in the boxing gym, I give the kids Bitcoin. I say, if you download this wallet, I'll go ahead and I'll gift you Bitcoin, I'll gift you cryptocurrency, and they get so excited. I also, people that work for me, I pay them in cryptocurrency. I'm generally stable coins, because they've got bills and whatnot to pay. So when you're giving people cryptocurrency, they're able to actually spend it, or they're able to do whatever it is they want to do with it, whether it be spending or trading. And I feel that it's kind of empowering in a way, because it might not be something that they would be comfortable with to go ahead and purchase on their own. But when you're paying somebody in it, then you're going to start to see more and more people talking about it and using it, getting excited about it. Then these people are able to kind of talk about it to their fans and their supporters, and their fans and supporters will be like, oh my God, this is so cool. I can do what so-and-so did. Because we all know that we get influenced by what people say. Heck, if somebody mentions I had delicious pasta with meatballs for lunch, I'm going to probably start craving pasta and meatballs for lunch. So we can see that, we can kind of see how that works. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think esports and blockchain is like, they tie in together so perfectly well. I think it was a power move done by Blockfolio and FTX. And it's just really kind of cool to see them go out and sponsor people that are actually going to make a positive impact in the space and get adoption kind of going.
Yeah, those are great points. And Son of a Tech, I wanted to ask you, the hardware that's involved with a lot of these gaming, you got gaming PCs, you got consoles, and the hardware is getting more and more robust as time goes on. And as cryptocurrency kind of starts to get integrated into esports, do you think there could ever be a scenario where they're incentivized to use an off time, maybe when you're not gaming, to mine with your console in the future? Do you think that could ever be viable, or do you think it's just the proof of work the network difficulty is going to be too high?
So really the problem is right now the perception that gamers have of cryptocurrency mining. This has happened now for 2 cycles where essentially the gamers are having a hard time buying graphics cards at retail cost because the miners are purchasing them all up. And this has created a negative stigma within the gaming community towards cryptocurrency in general, because the thought is, or the perception is, well, they're just hoarding all the cards out of greed. We're not able to purchase any cards to play our games with. So there's that negative perception that has to be kind of worked on to a certain extent. Now, there are some projects out there. Vertcoin is one where they advertise, being able to mine even while gaming. There's people out there that are even doing benchmarks of mining Vertcoin while playing video games at the same time. And then I have talked to some LAN game centers that are thinking about working on a software that while the gaming isn't being done, while the rig isn't being utilized, they're going to shift over and have it automatically start mining cryptocurrency. This way they can kind of make up for their costs, as that's like a segment of the gaming industry that's gone downhill profitability wise over the years, because people aren't going to them because they have the machines at their house. But also the LAN gaming centers are seeing a little bit of a rise because of the lack of hardware recently, right? So it does have the possibility of basically being able to get crypto a larger reach if it can incentivize gamers to, mine themselves and they become participants. Now, network difficulty could be a thing, but on a lot of the smaller cryptocurrencies, maybe not. Like I mentioned, Vertcoin, that one, for example, if there could be a company that could somehow figure that out, a low demand algorithm that allows you to game while mining even, that'd be fantastic. And in addition to that, if that could be integrated with a storefront like Steam or Epic, something along those lines, to then redeem that mined cryptocurrency for video games directly in the store, that could be a huge positive as well. So that's really the direction I think it's going to need to take to get over this kind of stigma of gamers versus miners.
Yeah. That was great. And let me go to Ben before he falls asleep over there. We had Livid Music just said it. Counter-Strike has a plugin implemented where you can bet BTC real time on Lightning Network to earn by what you win or lose. We were just at the Bitcoin 2021 conference, and they had a little esports arena set up there where two teams could compete in CS or in Counter-Strike and bet like Livid Music is saying, they could bet their health in Satoshis, and whoever had the most at the end would take all the Satoshis for the win. So, Ben, I'm curious to hear from you. Do you think esports betting with cryptocurrency is going to be a thing of the future?
Unfortunately, I think so. I mean, what the miners and the gamers, like, why don't you guys come together and go against someone who really hates you and take me on? Okay.
I was going to say, two of your favorite things.
No, I'm just kidding. So, but seriously. So here's the thing. I tell you that this FTX deal for $135 million for 19 years of naming rights to formerly American Airline Arena in Miami, it's unbelievable how cheap that is. And to me, to have 19 years, number one, it says FTX is planning on being around for 19 years. Number two is that, you get so much exposure. Anyone that goes to an event, you're seeing your stuff everywhere. Now, I know, TJ, you actually, a former job you had before you came and, worked at the world's best place to work, you had a deal where the company you worked for sponsored an NFL stadium. And there's all kind of perks that comes along with that. But the fact that this gaming contract is $200 million, more than the naming rights for an NBA arena. That's unbelievable to me. So back to your question about will betting with crypto, we're heading towards microtransactions, towards much more involvement between gaming, esports, and that's the statement right there. Look at the money for the esports sponsorship. Look at the money for a real, actual NBA arena. The one is way more expensive. Now, how do we know how long this is for?
One is for 10 years, basically $21 million per year. So it's still a much higher rate per year. And it's funny.
So it's a 10-year compared to a 19-year, and it's a lot more expensive.
Yes.
So there's your tip, people. Look, one of the things that I think I've done really well as an older human, and older than a lot of people in our audience, but hey, I'm almost 40 at this point, is know that what the world that I like it's going away. The world that the new generation likes, that's what always gets ushered in. So it sounds dumb to me. Let's go watch a bunch of nerds play video games and bet on it. But I'm smart enough to know that that's old man yelling at the sky,
exactly.
Right now. That's what I am. You kids, no. But I know this is coming. So look, take advantage of it. Understand it's coming. Our world's going to be much different in 10 years. I think that this really hammers that home.
Yeah, good point. And it's interesting you said it surprised you. We were talking about this right beforehand. I actually, not only did I have a sponsorship background, but I also am a gamer too, played a lot of League of Legends, watched a lot of the big Riot events and things over the years. Yeah, and a miner. Yeah, no wonder you hate me so much. But
absolutely.
But no, it actually didn't surprise me one bit when I looked at it, because the way sponsorships are typically valued are by impression or exposure value. And the exposure, the amount of impressions that TSM generates across their organization, across the world, is so much greater than one arena, just because they have an international reach versus just being isolated to one sport.
I don't even know what that is, TSM. What is that?
It stands for Team Solo Mid. It did, but they're the biggest. They're a big League of Legends team, but they also play a lot of other esports as well. But real
So
quick,
crazy, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, I want to move on from this topic, but one other thing that was in this deal is they did say they not only did they take this deal, they were willing to sponsor it, but they can't even display their new name, put it in their, because cryptocurrency, they're saying Riot Games, Valorant, saying it's banned, so they're still resistant to, letting this stuff come in, probably largely because they have in-game currencies that feel threatened, like we've seen with other sovereign nations and stuff that have currencies, and they see Bitcoin coming up. Maybe they see a threat to something that's made them a lot of money over the years. But I do want to transition into the big news coming out of the Bitcoin 2021 conference, which was El Salvador making Bitcoin their legal tender, or proposing a bill to, and that's everybody seems to think will go through no problem with their Congress. Something tells me their Congress works a little different than our Congress here in the United States. So, but as that progresses, we were talking about a week or two ago on this show about, maybe some of these dumps and some of this manipulation. We've seen the Wyckoff distribution, the Wyckoff accumulation, all these different patterns we were seeing playing out by textbook could be the beginning of sovereign money coming into Bitcoin. And that subject right there is the fuel for a lot of people to believe that this is going to be a Bitcoin super cycle, that we're not going to experience a bear market like we have in the past, and we're just going to keep going up and up and up, and there is no more bear market. Bear markets are over. Can sovereign money come into Bitcoin? Can that stop the cycles, or is it maybe what's causing this dump now as other countries are starting to realize, like, hey, wait a minute, Paraguay is supposed to be coming in next, and if there's going to be a domino effect here, maybe we're just going to see a lot more manipulation in a much longer bear market. So Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
We just experienced a 40% drop in a day. Bear markets are still going to be a thing. I mean, that just shows you that when it doesn't matter how much money's coming into this, until we have like a $20 trillion market cap, we're probably going to see fluctuation. You're going to see cycles. Like, look, I don't care who comes into crypto. I don't care who decides, like, hey, we're going to accept Bitcoin. The mining halving schedule is still on the same schedule. That's what causes the price to go up, is the supply and demand. That's what drives the entire thing. So anybody that tells you otherwise, like, they don't understand the Bitcoin cycles. It's very easy to see that on the charts. And when you really start talking about the numbers and the actual production and the effect that has, I'll just say my favorite number in Bitcoin, and I always say this will always be my favorite number in Bitcoin. Right now, in 12 years, we've mined 18.7 million Bitcoin. For the rest of the Bitcoin mining schedule, which goes to 2140. So in 12 years, 18.7 million Bitcoin. In the next 119 years, 2.3 million. That's insane. That's what causes this, the supply and demand economics that are built into Bitcoin to cause the price to go up. So I don't care who's using it, who's accepting it. Really, the more countries we bring in, probably the more it does become kind of like, part of trade games between countries. So could possibly bring more manipulation. That's what the institutions have done.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's starting
to feel like. But it's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing, though. It is a good thing, but I just don't want everybody to have wool over their eyes.
Yeah, that's a really good take. It is progress. It is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going up forever. And Wendy, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, we know Bitcoin has some issues with speed of transactions and different things like that. We know there's been a lot of work being done with the Lightning Network. Jack Mallers did an incredible speech at the end of the conference to kind of close it out, where they did this announcement about all the great things they've been doing there with the Lightning Network. But some other people, there was a lot of people out there talking about Ethereum and the DeFi movement, and like, maybe, if one country's backing Bitcoin, maybe another one starts moving towards Ethereum. So I'm interested to hear from you. Do you think Bitcoin's too slow? Or, like, if you were a dictator of a huge country, which currency would you lean towards?
I don't think it's a matter of which currency would I lean towards. They have selected Bitcoin, and they have selected Bitcoin for a reason. I read somewhere that El Salvador, about 70% of the population is unbanked. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a demographic of people that live in turmoil. It's very poor there. There's a lot of crime. There's crime in very poor places because a lot of times people do not have necessarily the means or the education to support a better quality of life for them. And I'm not here to talk about how people are living. I'm here to talk about how Bitcoin is I don't want to say is going to save this country, but how it is going to improve the quality of life for people that do decide to adopt it. They don't have transportation like we do in the United States. They don't have access to a lot of things that we do, but mostly everybody has access to cell phones. And I know this because I have friends that have immigrated to the United States from El Salvador, and they bring you cell phones to their family members. They're sending money back and forth to kind of help them. So the fact that this president sees that there is a problem and he is actively doing the best that he can to improve the quality of life for his people, I'm 100% here for it. This is not about price action. This Bitcoin, potentially being the national tender or in El Salvador, is much bigger than price action. We will see price appreciation later on, but right now we're focusing on the actual use case of Bitcoin, it to be digital cash for people that needs it, essentially a hedge for them. These people are able to actually be self-sovereign and to have control over their own money, and they don't have to worry about somebody coming in and taking their stuff. So to me, that is more important. And I always like the saying, people over profit. And that is exactly what is happening in El Salvador. And when we kind of take a step back, we really look at what's happening and you pay attention to some of the tweets of the president, he is going to allow people to come in and buy property in El Salvador. Generally, a lot of places in Latin America, unless you are a resident, you cannot buy property there. It's not like the United States. People can come into the United States and buy property regardless if you're a resident or not. So I also think that this is going to help with the economy. It's going to help with tourist attractions. It's going to help fuel a lot of different things. So I'm 100% here for it, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point you just made. Like, property rights and just rights of ownership of any kind in some of these other countries is something that's extremely valuable and something that a lot of us in first world countries take for granted. Like, we have property rights. We don't have dictators that just come in and take everything away from us. So like you said, like, it's very hard to own property. It's very hard to own real estate. But with Bitcoin, you can actually take custody and own a real asset for yourself anywhere in the world, and all you need is a cell phone. And that one fact alone is an amazing thing that has a long-term impact. So we're going to jump right back to the market here in a second, but I wanted to talk to Son of Tech because I know you're the resident miner. Do you think, and I don't know what the power cost and consumption is like in some of these South American countries, but as we see these nations moving towards that, do you think it could spur a kind of a mining explosion in those South American countries if this continues?
I mean, infrastructure is going to be a big deal, right? So typically in these countries, infrastructure is an issue. And so a lot of the good news is because the infrastructure is an issue, new infrastructure would be needed, and hopefully that would be green infrastructure, right? Renewable energy, that sort of thing. But I think what would have to happen is the companies that want to move into those countries are going to have to float some of that, right? Infrastructure, whether that's wind, hydro, solar, and basically try to help those countries out. I think it is an opportunity there, right, for these larger mining companies to move maybe to South America as opposed to being, primarily in Asia or something. Now, if I was just looking at the map, and it does show that they only have currently 0.29% of the total Bitcoin hash power in Paraguay at this time. So just in case you guys were wondering, they don't have much right now. It's actually second in South America to Venezuela still. So just a little tip there.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And we actually just had Carl the Moon in the chat saying breakdown, he's going short right now. And I mean, it's just not stopping. We're getting bad candle after bad candle. We're at 33.8 right now. So Ben, I want to hear from you. How last time we saw a dip down to 29, it kind of bounced pretty strong, got right back above 30 pretty fast. How low does this price have to drop for you to consider it officially a bear market? Do you think would 29 make it a bear market if we held there?
No, I think bear market's more based on time for me. I mean, like, if we're in August or September and we're still at 30,000 or below 40, then we're clearly in a bear market. I mean, we were looking at some of these charts from 2017 and 2018, 2019, and it should have been very obvious to us that we were in a bear market, and we still were very hopeful things were going to come up, any day, but you go and look at these long accumulation periods for altcoins, and they just did not move. So, we're going to see prices drop and then stagnate, but I still think things are going to be fine. I still do. I still think things are going to be fine. So I'm not really looking at the numbers. I'm looking at hey, the fact is, if we don't go below, let's see, what's the number here? I'm I'm on the Elron chart right now, so I gotta
5 minute
get off the 4-second chart. That's what he likes. Okay, so if we go back to the day of the crash, it dropped down on ByBit to 29.8. The next rundown, it went down to 31.1.
Can you share your screen? Do you mind?
I don't know. Can I?
You can.
How do I do it?
You know that
Is it share
advanced
screen?
Yeah, you just toggle screen sharing at the bottom there.
Toggle screen sharing. Okay, sure.
And then you pick
Chrome tab. Sure. Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, so this is everybody's favorite trading view. I'm an expert at using these tools, so we'll see how this works. But if we go back here and we go back to the day of the crash, it went down to basically 29.8. And then on the Sunday, when altcoins all dipped, it went down to 31.1. Then last weekend for the Bloody Sunday that never happened, it dropped down to 33.4. And right now we've gone to 34.4. So as long as it doesn't go below 33.4, we're still making a higher low. So, I mean, really, to me, it's got to go lower than this right here. It's got to go lower than 31,000 to really be like, okay, things are not good right now. So just feels like more manipulation. I mean, this news comes out about how is that news coming out bad for anybody but criminals? You know, right. That's kind of how I look at it. So for me personally, I think that, you know, I'm not that worried right now about it. I mean, we're going to see a resurgence at some point. I'm going to, you know, I said July is really the month to watch for sure. If by the end of July we're not moving up, but I got a lot of strong indicators and feelings. We've got the EIP 1559 coming out in July. So for Ethereum, as long as Bitcoin's hovering around these numbers between 34 and 38, I mean, ultimately it's good for altcoins. So.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good analysis. I would agree with that. We've got actually really mixed reviews in the chat now. We've got half of the people saying it's a bear market, this is over, get out now, sell it all, and then the other half saying I'm scooping here, my buy order's set at 29, I'm scooping at 30. These are discount coins. So Andrew, how do you assess a situation like this? Are you looking to buy right now, or are you looking to get out?
Okay, so I have one chance to try and win around the blockchain, so let me try, because I didn't win last time. Just hit 100K subscribers today, so I have to do my best. Okay,
oh, actually, hold on real quick. On that note, for anybody, I forgot to say this at the top of the show, the links to all of these channels are in the description of this video here, so please go show these guys the BitSquad love. Let's get Andrew's numbers going up. Smash the likes. Go give everybody a subscribe. And as always, if you like this type of content, please like and upvote this video. It helps more people see it. And it seems like YouTube doesn't want people seeing crypto content right now. So if you guys could do that, we really appreciate it. And now, sorry, Andrew, back to you.
Kill that YouTube algorithm. Okay, so let me get the data poured out here because I am the data guy on my channel. I do go over these data dives all the time. Usually starts with this. Professor Meatball takes one too, but we'll do it on my channel. First things first, El Salvador.
Are you saying your dog drinks alcohol?
Yeah, well, he drinks the puppy brew, right?
Puppy ale. I was going to say, that's not good for their liver, dude. They don't have a liver, right?
Responsible drinking only. So right here, what I wanted to say is when you get around to understanding what Ben just said and what Wendy just said, put them together, it's about pattern recognition and about expectation, right? Perception is queen. When it comes to data, right, we like to consider that data is the only thing that people want to actually understand. But when you say spaghetti meatball, right? That's Professor Meatball. Spaghetti meatball, you're only going to think the next one is going to be one of the two, either a bull or a bear. However, what actually happened when China threw its weight around, it's GDP, it's gross domestic product. Let's look at some World Bank data. It was 14.2 trillion in 2019. Anybody have a guess where El Salvador is?
On GDP?
Just a guess, a magnitude. Yeah, just a magnitude of difference.
I feel like I knew this earlier, but go ahead.
$1 billion.
1 billion. 1 billion. Well, 27 of those, $27 billion, but compare that to Argentina's $445 billion or Brazil's $1.8 trillion, right? These are completely different leagues that you're playing with right now. So people see spaghetti meatballs, bear market, bull market, then they see this opportunity, right? It seems like the same opportunity as Elon offering up BitTorrent to be used on Tesla, right? It seems like the same opportunity where Bitcoin is using as a esports tool, as something that will be in the smart contracts and NFTs. Each one of these seems like either a spaghetti or a meatball. This time around, when people expect the bull market, they end up hurting themselves because they don't see people reacting to the news. An entire country, right? Ben is right. An entire country seems like it is now trying to make the very first human attempt at creating its own Bitcoin sovereign currency. And people seem to think that that's going to be a big deal. Remember, El Salvador is so much smaller than China's weight that was just thrown around, 40% down and barely a blip back up. This is the question that people are asking. How long are you willing to wait until those coins actually become part of the 100,000 club, right? If it comes to Dogecoin, a $1 club, you guys are patient to the extent that you love to see major rips on the day-to-day, even the week-to-week, but it just zoomed back out past the level that we were before the Tesla pump, let's say, right? That $40,000 mark right there is when I decided to sell. I thought I was doing pretty well. Tesla then pumps the coin directly up to 60,000, right? By accepting it, that caused a chain reaction that allowed us to be able to get major gains. Maybe that was overvalued at the time, but we know that these sovereigns now are throwing their weight around. We have to pay attention to regulation and legislation because in Ben's words, this is the greatest milestone that we have seen in a long time from people actually trying to adopt it. And what Wendy said about the fact that El Salvador is a country that's entirely different than your countries that have access to all of these different other kind of technologies and just basic human rights, you're going to have a mismatch of expectation. That's where that bear is coming from.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's and that's something CryptoFace was talking about the other day too. They can be bear or bull in many different scenarios. Depends on the time frame. Kind of like what Ben was alluding to. Like time is a really key factor when you're considering all these things. But you mentioned China several times, and that's kind of one thing I wanted to ask Son of Tech about a little bit. We know 65% of the mining is done over there in China, and they've been consistently the last couple of weeks coming out with bearish kind of FUD style stories of we're going to be banning this, we're removing that. Most recently, Weibo, the Twitter-like app over there, saying that they're no longer going to be accepting any type of Bitcoin transactions. But we do know that they're doing most of the mining over there, so they've got a very vested interest in Bitcoin. Now, as we hear all these other countries getting involved, I'm curious to hear, do you think this is just posturing, or do you think this is actually real news coming out of China?
All right, well, we can actually look at a map here. I'm going to try to share this screen for you guys.
Oh, nice.
There we go. Okay, so this is the Bitcoin mining map, and it will show you the hash rate and the kind of hash rate for each country, that sort of thing. Here's China over here. It's still at 65%. If we take a look at the historical hash rate, the last dump of hash rate was 30 exahash. Sorry, that was a joke that we were. Never mind. So, anyways,
Yeah.
we'll just go exahash.
Minor joke.
It's exahash.
Nerd joke.
Yeah, sorry. Nerd joke. All right. So we had 30 drop off. That was last week, like on the 29th of May. Wait, that's further. Let's see. So, right, we're in June. Yeah. So last week. And that was when, they talked about moving. Of course, we had two things. We had the drop or the announcement from China saying they're going to ban it or whatever. And then we had this little country over here, I believe it was Iran, that is putting it on hold for the summer. Neither one of these countries seem to have actually taken much hash power off since then, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's posturing at this point, because if it was actually true and they were enforcing it, I think we'd start seeing more hash rate drop off from China. Now, part of the thing is a lot of Chinese companies were moving over to Iran. So now possibly what happened is it stopped and it's paused some of that move over because of the temporary ban in Iran for the summer, because they're having blackouts because it was taking too much power. So at this point, yeah, I think I'm going to go with, posturing. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that is how it tends to feel with most of the stuff that comes out of most of the news that comes out of China. You never know what's real and what's fake, and what are they trying to do for their own gain, and what, like I said, what is true. So it's really interesting. kind of as Andrew was saying, like when big news comes out and people kind of perceive it in one direction, and then maybe the immediate, like we're seeing right now with this price dump, like it was all hype Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you know, going into today that like, oh, this Paraguay or this El Salvador news is huge. Like all these other countries are going to follow. It's going to be a super cycle, rah, 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 Bitcoin conference. And then now we see like that's not necessarily the case, but it might. This volatility and this manipulation might be what it takes in order for Bitcoin to grow and develop and become that true store of value asset as time goes on. So that is all we have time for today. Unless anybody else has anything they want to jump in with real quick, we'll wind it down. It looks like, Andrew, I thought you had it. You were so close. Maybe you know, son of a tech. If he didn't pull that map up, man, I think you had it. But that map was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was the map.
The map did it, man. The audience really liked it. So you've got 30 seconds as our winner to leave the audience with a parting message. What can you tell them in these kind of volatile times to help them, weather this storm?
Is there a timer? All right.
No, just go.
30, 29, 28.
Hey, now I'm distracted. All right. Now, so in closing, everybody, I suppose, I don't know where the price is going to go. And if somebody tells you that the price of a Bleep coin is going to go up, probably don't believe them and just, keep investing in cryptocurrency if that is how you feel, but only invest what you can lose. And if you want to get into mining, I'm here. I'm trying to do everything I can to facilitate any how-tos as far as all that goes. And check out everybody here on YouTube. Andrew Mo, who just cracked 1,000 subs. Congratulations, sir. WendyO, check her. It was 100,000, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think so. Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And of course, sub to this channel if you haven't already.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. As always, thank you guys for coming out today. We really appreciate having you guys out here. It's a lot of fun. As he mentioned, please smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and check the description for the links to the other channels. You can subscribe to them as well. That's all we have for today. We'll see you tomorrow. We're out.